Hello everybody, this is Simon with the final episode of Let's Play Mega Man Tertium. This level here, with the color scheme chosen by the people, of course not the other one, is a giant hodgepodge of all the things we've seen in the game. It is kind of detrimental to a focused stage design, however it still is very fun, albeit pretty damn challenging, a very fitting final gauntlet. It is also really long, because they were determined to cram in as many enemies and as many stage gimmicks as they could. These guys here will always be annoying, fortunately Dive Missile makes short work of them. And here, very Dustmanish, never ever go down a ladder too quickly. Fortunately enough, drill bombs, which I haven't shown off yet, are incredibly good at dealing with high health enemies. They rip things apart in milliseconds, as you can see, it's fantastic. These Shadow Man platforms are still a complete bitch, but I have gotten used to them by now. This section here is mandatory rush jet usage, as is immediately obvious. What is not obvious is that you have to have the right height. Unfortunately enough, it does not despawn on its own unless you change weapons, which always trips me up. This should be the right height. These guys here, you have to conserve your shots because you only get 3 on screen at once and I always fuck up at the end. It is very hard and I've died here quite a lot during recordings. It is also not too fun because you have to do it very specifically from the placement of the rush jet on. This here is an absolute non-issue even without the Dive Missile, and this guy here is completely superfluous. Still, Dive Missile is really good in doing what it does best, that is killing stuff indiscriminately. This guy, for example, is also weak to Dive Missile, fantastically enough, because I hate hamages. I also hate vertical sections. This is not fun in my opinion, because one hit means that you will have to redo 2 screens. It is still far too slow, and I'm glad that it is not really that hard. This is the only tough part really, and again, Drill Bomb really comes through in making this not assholishly evil. I have tried using Punk's weapon here, which we're going to see later on, but the first part of the stage, sadly enough, isn't too geared for it. It's going to get better later. This is the only acceptable usage of up and downs in my opinion, because, nope, they come up easily and quickly enough so you can actually see them coming. This means I do not have to stop at any point during this section, meaning that the gameplay flow is preserved and I can just keep going on. This is the best way to handle it in my opinion, and fortunately enough, at least one example of them being cool. These guys here again, not a hassle because of the amazing spark shot. The only thing it really needed was making the weapon switch possible. This, however, is an absolute ass of a section, mainly because it is even worse than the dust blocks, even though you can go on, but there is stuff like this happening here. You do not have to remove a lot of blocks, but these things will remove a lot of your life, like all of it. And it's not too cool at all. I really do not enjoy this, especially because you get paranoid for very good reasons, as you've seen. And this pipe here, it will kill you. Not obvious at all, and not fun to discover on your first time around. These guys here, fortunately, we've got tons and tons of weapons to deal with them. Again, very randomish stage design. They're just throwing things in just to have them around, like a reminder of all the stages we've seen so far, of all the enemies we've seen so far. This does mean that stuff like this happens where there is a single bomb and is obviously not difficult at all compared to the Shadow Man platforms. So the in-level difficulty curve is kind of screwed up in my opinion. As said, again, I do not mind it too much because it is still fun enough. All of these mini rooms, mini challenges. Minakuchi has always been very good at making every single room matter and tease your brain in a different kind, in a different way. It is all fun and good. Really do not need the weapon energy, but I was expecting it. This is a checkpoint. It's great if you reach it, of course. Because sadly enough, the checkpoint before was at the start of the section before the Dustman room, which means you have to still go through the up and down room. There are also a lot of mats in this section, similar to the one stage that featured all of the mats in Mega Man 4. And this is also where I first pull out Punk's weapon, the Screw Crusher. It is really good, because as you might see, it does not actually cost weapon energy. Okay, it does, but you can like shoot 4 shots before it even takes off a single bar, which is very, very important as we're going to see. And it is as strong as 2 normal buster shots against regular enemies, and a lot of things are weak to it. It's fantastic, it's really well done, and I like it. This does remind me of another room we've already seen with 2 of the Dadas, however, as said, in-level difficulty curve kind of wonky. A demonstration of how it is not too good against enemies, which are not weak to it. Still only 2 damage, 8 health, and you can only have one of the Screw Crushers on screen at once. It's kind of annoying. And this is the reason why the Big Susie gives out a health pellet whenever it dies. Because here it is an enemy that is actually in the middle of a stage. If you expected the stage to be over by now, then you're in for a surprise actually, yes. And it is a pretty tough challenge at this point, and for some reason this time it actually did not drop a health pellet. That has never happened to me before, and I really do not know what the point was, what the problem was. And as you could also see, it is relatively weak to Spark Shot, not in a destroys it completely kind of way, but in a it deals 2 lines of damage kind of way, which is fine by me. Again, a Mad Parade. As you can see at the top, this guy looks different. It's actually a Mega Man format, which will then charge at you. Very interesting. We're going to see one more kind later on, actually. Just to shake things up a little, I appreciate that. Again, Hamacho is not my favorite kind of enemy, though I kind of goofed there. Unfortunately enough, I got a health pellet for my troubles. These guys here, still not too interesting or fun to fight. Again, you can rip them apart with Punk's weapon, but I didn't want to switch too much here. Though I could have switched earlier, I guess. This guy is actually a Mega Man 1 wet. As said, a very interesting combination here. Very fun little room that shakes things up a little. These guys here, I said, they could only be destroyed by Dust Crusher, but fortunately enough, Punk's weapon is good enough at not doing that. At also being able to kill them. Wow, words. So this guy here could be a really nasty surprise, but by now you should be prepared and have your high damage weapons ready. It's also a good time to pull out the drill bomb, but yeah, details. So to finish up, yes, Dust Crusher also kills these, and now we've seen all the weapons, I think, unless I missed something obvious. Oh wait, it's Skull Shield. But yes, Skull Shield is not good at all, really. Sadly enough, it does have its niche uses, but not in this stage at least, maybe against the mats, because it can actually block shots. Kind of goofed here. If you shoot early, then you can take all the debris out at once, of course, and we definitely needed that at the end, thank you very much, because that gimmick was so interesting and fun in the first place. And after that final unfortunate Hamacho, I really hate them if you haven't noticed by now, we have the final boss of the game. Which is a pretty good fight in my opinion. The first part is very formulaic and always works the same way. He always goes from one corner to the next, he himself, then he shoots out these missiles which do home a little, but you can usually get by just standing in one corner, so they will go there. And then you can change directions and will not get hit ever. It is a pattern which even I can adjust to, and I'm pretty bad at adjusting to patterns, as you have maybe noticed in the past. It is, as I said, an okay first fight. Of course, this is not all, if you did really expect more, but it's actually going to fake you out nicely enough, even though it does not end here and I always get trapped by the last few. Fortunately enough, I have a lot of E-tanks left. There we go, of course you have to shoot Wily himself in his stupid face. And the only weapon that can do that is again the Mega Man Killer weapon. Good on them is that by now you have almost unlimited ammo. Compared to Anka's weapon, it is really a big step upwards in game design. You cannot really run out here, and the checkpoint for this boss is not in the boss chamber, it is actually at the start of the corridor before it, so if you really were to run out, you can farm it far better than in Primum. Of course in Secundum this wasn't an issue because you could and should kill the boss with the Buster, but Secundum wasn't made by Minakuchi, and it is best forgotten, so disregard that. As you can see, the shots he fires are staggered differently. They are never completely in sync. And this makes for a very interesting and varied challenge, even though I'm always doing the same thing, because they can block your shots, as you can see, and they kind of home at the position you were in when they were shot, so you really have to lead them around a little. You're usually safe in the corner because you rarely stand in the corner when they're shooting, and but it is pretty tough to actually squeeze in a shot here, and you have to play around with the hitbox of the boss a little. And I am moderately good at it, and it is not that hard. As you can see, you really only have to do the same things over and over again, but as the shots are not staggered always in the same way, I think it is varied enough to still qualify as fun. It is definitely a worthy final boss, and it's actually like really big and interesting. The one thing I also find interesting is that depending on when you killed it, it is either on the left or the right side of the screen, which doesn't really matter, but it does shake things up a little. And we're done now with Mega Man Tertium. Yes, back again, and the eyebrows! Holy shit, he of course had an escape plan. That also means that Mega is standing on another escape plan, because as I said, the machine could as well have ended up on the right side. Fortunately enough, it was still a load-bearing boss, so we're done with that, and I guess the story of the game was something about oil rigs? I don't know, I really do not care. Whoops, he's not getting away. Too bad for him. Again, a callback to Secundum of all games with the Weeping Skull. Fun enough. Roll the credits! Oh, wait, this does not look right. Wait, give me a second to fix it. There we go. This is actually the only sprite in the entire game that uses the fourth sprite color. All of the other sprites are only 3 colors, and the outline of this one is the 4th color we never see, so this tripped me up for a second. But I'm also going to change it back to the usual black and white stuff here. Just so you can see, he does not have a black outline, interestingly enough. So, closing thoughts on the game. In case you haven't noticed, I really like it. Tertium is such a giant step up from Secundum and also Primum, it's not even funny. Pretty much everything is better, from level design to boss fights, especially original ones. The entire game shines with quality and polish. A huge part are the well done graphics and the great music ports with fantastic originals. Tertium does, however, commit a few mistakes here and there, which I have been careful to point out. Most of those are minor details, like copy-pasted rooms, and maybe the mini-stages in Wily Fortress could have been a little longer. The one thing that irks me about Tertium, however, is probably best summed up in a single stage. Yes, I am going to nag about Dustman again. It is the culmination of taking difficulty and challenge too far and completely in the wrong direction. Many other parts of individual levels, like the ludicrous jump after the dropping block at the start of Sparkman stage, or the Spike Wonderland that is Diveman, also hint at things going a little overboard. In fact, let me expand on that some more, because this game is really good in illustrating what I mean. Most of the time it is very decently challenging, with obstacles that demand good play and which feel rewarding if you can pull that off, but if you fail, it's not too big of a deal. This is the kind of difficulty I want to see in a game, one which does not demand perfection, foreknowledge or mindless repetition. Enemies placed in unexpected but clever ways, like a mat just out of reach, so you have to make him jump, dodging the bullets at least once. That's something you can immediately understand upon seeing it the first time, coincidentally that was in Dustman's stage. But you need to get good at it in order to clear it without getting hit. If you fail it, being unpracticed, it's a little bit of damage, no big deal. Or have two enemies working together in a new way, multiple perfect examples in Tertium, it being more or less a remake and a mashup of two bigger titles to boot. Minakuchi is great at shaking things up a little, coming up with mini challenges that test your brain as much as your reflexes. However, they are obviously allergic to the bad kind of block puzzles like in the original Iceman, which make you stand still for minutes to try and figure out the pattern. Sadly enough, Tertium also excels at making sometimes entire stages based solely on the bad kind of difficulty. You cannot beat Dustman's stage in your first try, period. You will be surprised by far too many shield attackers which will whittle your life down to nothing before you even reach the first checkpoint. You will be surprised by at the very least the first up and down getting knocked into a pit. It's a stage that demands a lot of replays until you memorize every trap. The fact that my very first recording of it was already the winning run tells me personally how wrongly set up the thing is. It's frustratingly difficult until you've pulled it off once, then it becomes a complete cakewalk because you know exactly what to do. Therefore, boring. And slow because you still need to stop in front of every single pit. The challenge design is almost Dark Souls-like here. Knowing where the traps are helps a lot. However, Mega Man is simply not complex enough to still be tough and interesting after you gain that knowledge. Also, contrary to many of the traps I regard as too dickish in Tertium, Dark Souls does not kill you instantly most of the time if you walk into one. In fact, major pet peeve of mine, just get rid of instant kill completely. It is never fun in a game where you have only 2 lives to finish a stage with, and rarely in games where you have more. Super Meat Boy, Rayman Origins, these are games that do it perfectly because you have infinite lives in very short segments. That small rant aside, I greatly enjoy playing Tertium for the challenge, the good kind. Fortunately enough, by now I know where the traps are, so this LP wasn't hard to make at all. As you now also know the traps, I greatly recommend you check the title out, something I would be reluctant to do for Primum and Secundum. Please enjoy the rest of the ending. This was Simon with Let's Play Mega Man Tertium, and thank you very much for your attention.